This is exciting. I'm talking to Kevin from Hive.ai. This is a LinkedIn live session, and we're going to speak about content moderation, trust and safety, and all the good things that Hive.ai is doing. My name is Akash Pugalia. I lead the trust and safety practice here at Teleperformance, and really excited to have this conversation with Kevin. Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sounds good. Hi, Akash. Thanks for having me here, and nice to see a varied group of attendees. And hopefully, you all learned something insightful from our chat. Yeah, quick intro. I am the co-founder and CEO here at Hive. We are a Series D startup specializing in offering a variety of AI models. Our most well-known set of products is in the content moderation space, where we work with hundreds of partners today, processing billions of pieces of content through our automated models. But of course, oftentimes we'll work with partners like Teleperformance as well to augment our AI models with some level of human understanding too. So yeah, happy to discuss today and see what mutual learnings might come out of it.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it, and I think our partnership really complements each other. Where Hive.ai brings in the technology element to some of our clients who are maybe do not have such a good stack of technology, which can help in moderating the content. So, let me ask you a couple of questions, Kevin, that I've been thinking about. So, from a Hive standpoint, right? How did you come up with the idea of Hive that we need to look at the content that is there online, the toxicity, the badness of that content, and how did you come about that idea to create Hive.ai?
That's a great question. Our investors like to say that we have some of the best, founder product fit that they've seen. The reason for this is when we got into this in the early years. So my background is I was at Stanford, my co-founder, we were both studying computer vision AI. We actually didn't build this company to start. This company that now you see as Hive actually began as a consumer app. So we had this video chat app. We had users that could go on and meet new people, and we were using AI back then to actually do things like social discovery. And along the way, it got pretty popular, but we started to face our own issues around content moderation. We had a set of bad actors doing things like, bullying, hate speech, sexually explicit content, all that stuff. And this was around 2016, 2017. And we tried using these open source models that we could find. None of that worked. And then we talked to a few, partners to provide human services. And at the time, we were a small startup, it was too expensive. And so we were compelled to go ahead and build it ourselves. And so, that's what we did. We trained and built our own models from the beginning, deployed it for ourselves. And at some point, our competitor apps actually had heard what we had built, asked if they could buy those APIs from us. And so the side hustle of selling content moderation service was born almost as an accident, right? And then at some point, we looked at our two businesses and we saw the APIs we were selling to our customers was going actually at a faster pace than even our own app. And we realized maybe we weren't cut out to build our own consumer app, but we could help power a whole new generation of companies. And so at the end of 2017, that's when we made the switch to pivot fully into what you now see as Hive. So very personal journey for us. We lived through these challenges. When we talk to our customers and they tell us about the problems they're dealing with, vast amount of scale of the data, the difficulty of building accurate models, we can empathize, in a very real way.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I think, on the trust and safety content moderation side, when we look at moderating content through humans, there are a lot of challenges on how do we do policy enforcement. So from a Hive standpoint, right, I think this is something that I always think about. How does AI takes context into account? Different. I think the language part is probably the easier part, but then how do you look at the context of the spoken language? How do you overcome those type of situations?
Yeah, so our approach really is to be a fully comprehensive package for understanding content. We do image, video, text, audio, live content as well. We handle everything all kind of in one shop, and that gives us a pretty big advantage because that allows us to basically work with the partners and take in everything that they give us from their user kind of generated perspective. We can understand it all with our different models and return the results in every modality, right? I think that's really important because sometimes what someone says, what they what they produce in an image, what they type in text. These all provide different inputs, and then
Mhm.
collectively they can provide a better judgment on the user. So our models really are on that level of human level understanding for each of these content types. Now, with that being said, there's always going to be some amount of nuance and complications that will arise. This is where I think some people, when they think about AI models, they think of some sort of Terminator-esque world where machines are running everything and they've reached full control and
Yeah,
self-intelligence. But that we're very far from that. Maybe we'll never get there. Honestly,
yeah,
models are fairly, in a way, rudimentary. They're very narrow and they're focused, and they can do pretty much only what they're told and trained to do. And everything beyond that requires more creativity, always be the domain of humans, right? And I think we've seen that over the last year, especially where despite companies investing tremendously into more and more automated solutions, there's still a lot of things slipping through the cracks, and even more investment needs to be made on the human side as well. So from our perspective, the last year has shown that really this market just continues to become to be bigger on all fronts. I think solutions like ours will continue to grow in prominence, but we've also seen a large demand for more specialized human partnerships as well to figure out how to deal with things like misinformation, which
yeah,
I would say that are, for an ML model, that's very difficult to do, right? Things are changing quickly. Sometimes it's very subjective.
yes.
I'm not sure the ML models will do a great job at that, whereas a set of human trained, annotators could do a much better job. And so, I'm curious, what have you seen the last year? Obviously, we're in a situation now where there's a few different factors, right? There's obviously content continues to increase at a dramatic
Yes.
rate, but at the same time, obviously, we all know right now the macro conditions are dicey. Companies are cutting costs. How has that affected your approach to working with partners?
You hit the nail on its head. I think over the last 2 years, there are multiple things that have happened. One, because of COVID, I think this market was supposed to be that it could only happen in the office because of the egregiousness of the content. But I think companies have really pivoted during COVID to understand what could be done from office and what could be done from home. I think that has been the one of the biggest learnings during COVID for content moderation space. Another one that you talked about is misinformation, disinformation. I think with content complexity increasing, a lot of the text based and image based content is reducing, while video based content, live streaming, is increasing. And that is what we are seeing in our clients, in the volumes that our clients are seeing as well. Third is the context. It is extremely relevant for having the context of where the video is getting generated. So clients are asking more and more about moving away from established locations like San Francisco Bay Area or Dublin, and then looking at where you can get context of the people for the languages that they know, as well as the underlying slangs, etc., that are used. So I think with COVID, with the advent, this whole new market which has opened up from a human standpoint, right? You can now go to Africa, you can go to Eastern Europe, you can go to Latin America, and you are able to get the same amount of moderation done with great skills, but then at a slightly affordable, more affordable cost, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
that has really changed the scenario completely. The other thing I'll say is e-commerce. So there is a lot of trust and safety work, content moderation work that happen on e-commerce, and again, because of the COVID lockdowns, that has propelled significantly. I think with the inflation now hitting, I think that's coming down in terms of volume. But those were the two or three things that we saw. In fact, even gaming, right? Because everyone was stuck at home, a lot of people started gaming, which probably they wouldn't have started. So and all of those areas, obviously you know it better, that the lots of challenges in those areas, with misinformation, disinformation, with violent content, with sexual nudity content, with fake news. You name it and it's there. So our teams have really pivoted into where we could find the right talent, the best talent for the work that our clients are asking. And yeah, so I'm really seeing the change happening. You touched upon one thing, Kevin, which I always, it's a crystal ball. I always think that, right? So you touched upon it, that will this content that is there, will it ever get moderated completely through bots or through the AI systems or through the classifiers? And my personal view is that, while it is getting better, the content is also getting more complicated, right? It is
Mm.
becoming more difficult. And I don't think that in the next 5, 7, 10 years, we'll reach a place where everything will be done by just the machine. So it's a big blend. It's a mix of the AI moderation as well as the human moderation. What's
Mm.
your view, Kevin, on this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think to be more specific, the way you can view it is, well, so first I agree. I think this will never be fully solved by models, and kind of my previous point, models are kind of narrow. And so to be specific on what I think models can do versus what humans can do, let's take some very like clear categories, right? So let's take the example of, you know, uh, uh, nudity content in images and videos. All right. If you're a generic consumer social platform, you probably don't want to allow adult content broadly on it. That's kind of a social norm. Now that problem, I would argue that a model can actually pretty much just solve without further human intervention. In fact, we've done it, right? In audits that our clients have done with our models versus their own human studies, they found that using a Hive AI model to detect something like graphic nudity in images and videos were pretty much that of human level accuracy. So for those type of tasks, I don't think we need human review. What else do we not need human review? I don't think we need human review to detect, violence and gore imagery, especially things that are extremely graphic.
Yeah.
With a lot of blood, a lot of acts of violence. These are things that models can just do, right? So I think more on the visual side, very specific categories, you can view that as that's a paradigm shift. That's also been, a lot of the issues that have arisen in recent years on the wellness side of things,
Yes.
right? If you're a person and you're being exposed to this type of graphic content day in and out, I mean, that's going to be tough on anyone. A model, fortunately, doesn't have that issue, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's one where it's clear that we should migrate that work over to models. Now, where is it really going to struggle? Well, kind of to your point, right? Misinformation, disinformation. What does it really even mean to tell a model, hey, this is right or wrong? I mean, this is not something that you can, unlike something like nudity or violence and guns and gore, those are very specific, clear examples. It's, there are examples you can say that are yes, that are no. It's also not going to change over time,
Yeah.
right? Like in the end, nudity is nudity.
Yes.
It's a concept that exists. It is kind of an axiom, and it will not differ month to month. But misinformation, what's true and not true, I mean, as new facts emerge, as new public discourse happens, that may change. And so for that type of problem, you're going to need a specially trained workforce that is able to evolve with the times and adapt. So this is what we may see in the media. I think, obviously this has become very prominent with like Elon buying Twitter. He's saying that he just wants to replace all Twitter moderation with just, a model effectively. Well,
Yeah.
I think high level, obviously I'm for using more
Yes.
models. That's also too much, right? There will always be some level of human involvement.
Kevin, thank you so much for your insights. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and, tap into your brain and see how you're looking at the industry and how you are designing the new models for the future. It's a great partnership that we have. And I really look forward to continuously working with you and your team. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And for the people who have joined live, I really appreciate all of you who've joined from all over the world. Hope this was informative for all of you. Kevin, any last words from you?
Yep, I think it's good. It was a pleasure chatting as well. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin.